Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Jodi, Carlton, a neurodiverse relationship expert, and today I want to talk a little bit about these New Year's resolutions that a lot of us make this time of year and how to make them neurodiversity-friendly. Now, if you're like me, you've made resolutions in the past only to find that a few weeks into the year or even several months into the year, you haven't accomplished your goal. And there are some really specific reasons why we struggle to accomplish goals that we set for ourselves. But the good news is there are some key strategies you can use to be successful about your resolutions. And by the way, this works any time of year, not just around New Year's Day, but this is a traditional time of year that we tend to review our life and look at how we want to make some changes in our lives, which is a good thing to occasionally check in and say, okay, what would I like to change and how do I want to make things better? Now, one of the reasons why New Year's Eve resolutions can be so difficult is because we tend to do them in a way that works against our brain instead of with our brain. Especially for those of us like myself, I have ADHD. Some of you watching are autistic or have other types of neurodivergence. And with that, sometimes comes some executive function challenges like planning, organizing, procrastination, motivation. And we don't want to just shame ourselves for the way our brain works because neurodiversity also comes with major strengths and abilities and skill sets that really benefit us and the human population. But when it comes to making resolutions for ourselves, we want to work with our brain instead of against it. So the problem with some traditional types of resolutions is that they're too vague and sometimes all or nothing. So we tend to believe that we need to achieve the entire goal to be successful, when usually implementing change in our life involves steps and time in order to achieve a goal. So for example, if your New Year's resolution is to lose weight, read more, exercise more, whatever it is, cook more, eat out less. One of mine has been to develop new hobbies. Now, all of these are very broad, vague, unspecific. How do we go about doing that? And how do we actually measure whether or not we're achieving our goal? So a lot of times, neurodivergent individuals get stuck looking at the bigger goal without knowing how to break it down into specific steps. And then over time, that goal is not met. And then the shame cycle kicks in when the goals are not being achieved. And then it just becomes a really negative self-shaming experience. So the first step is to start small and focus on micro goals. Now, one of the reasons why we don't achieve our goals oftentimes is because, well, first of all, there's usually a reason why we're not doing something that we want to be doing. There's a reason why we're not. And so first we want to look at what is preventing us from achieving this goal already. If it's something that we want for ourselves, why aren't we doing it already? What kinds of things are blocking us from achieving that goal? And how can we address those things first? For most people, time and money are two things that will block us from achieving goals. We can feel overwhelmed and like we don't have enough time. But then also routines. If we don't incorporate it into our routine somehow, then we'll forget about it. I'm ADHD. If I don't put a goal into my actual routine and on the schedule, something that I'm trying to achieve, then I will literally forget about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. So for me, one of my goals this year is to be healthier, to get more exercise, and to eat healthier. So I found a gym where I can schedule appointments to come in and do my workout. I'm working with a personal trainer, which is pretty expensive. And it's hard for me to spend money on myself for something like that. But what I've realized is that my health is extremely important to me. My health is just as important as my retirement fund, because if I'm not alive to live past my retirement, then my retirement fund doesn't mean a thing. So oftentimes we have to look at what are our priorities in our life, what are our values, and in what way are those values actually blocking us from achieving a goal. But let's look at something else that doesn't cost money, like more reading. That's another one of my goals, is to read more. I absolutely love reading, but I hadn't been doing a lot of reading for pleasure for years. If I read at all, I would read books related to my career. But I also love reading fiction books, and I want to do that more this year. So I looked at what is preventing me from actually reading books. Now, historically, I've wanted to hold a book in my hand, and I haven't been willing to take the time to go to the library and check out books. Or if I did, I would read the book and then forget to return it because of my executive dysfunction, that being something that's out of my ordinary routine. And so that became a stressor for me. Even it was a small one, but enough to prevent me from going to the library and checking out a book. I also from a financial perspective, am too thrifty to buy books every time I want to read a book. So I looked at it and thought, okay, what is preventing me from reading is I don't have access to a book and I'm not willing to go to the library. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give e-reading a try again, which I haven't liked in the past. And I thought, okay, how can I best do that? Well, I didn't really want to read on my phone because the print is so small and I'm getting to have old lady eyes and I need bifocals. And I didn't want to buy an expensive iPad, so I bought a very inexpensive Kindle Fire. So then I linked my Kindle to my local library. And since I did that just 3 weeks ago, I've already read 2 books. And I also found that there was an extra perk of reading on a Kindle where I could make the print larger for these old lady eyes. And it was actually easier for me to read. And another perk that I discovered was that the Kindle suggests books for me. The library suggests books for me, whereas I didn't really know where to start and what to read. And I would get paralyzed by decision paralysis if I was just trying to research, either search Amazon or, what are good books to read. But I found that when they flash those images, they just put the images right there on the screen for me and suggest it for me based on what I've read before, that it's easier for me to pick something to read. So I made that goal easier for myself by taking away barriers. The one barrier to drive to the library, my difficulty returning books, and my own mental block about reading a book that I'm holding in my hand versus using an e-reader. Now my goal is not only more attainable, but I'm already achieving it. Now for me, something like reading, time is an issue because I'm very busy doing my job. I stay busy. But another micro step that I have set for myself is boundaries with my time. And because I'm self-employed, my job really never ends. Sometimes I am checking emails or looking at something at 10 o'clock at night. But I decided to set boundaries for myself and work very little, if at all, on the weekends and after I end my day in the evening, which gives me time to eat dinner, spend time with my family, and then read, usually at bedtime. But again, I had to set that boundary with myself. I had to set that schedule for myself. Again, routine for neurodivergent individuals is really important. So you want to actually set a time for yourself to achieve your goal. Let's talk about another goal. So maybe you have a goal of you want to walk more this year. So first you want to break it down into micro steps again and ask yourself, what's preventing me from doing this already? Do I live in a climate where it's freezing outside and I don't really want to go out in the snow and ice and walk? So how could I achieve that goal by going somewhere else, whether it's going to a local gym and walking around the track, or going to a local indoor mall and just walking around there. But even then, that requires you going somewhere. Could you buy an inexpensive treadmill and walk on it at home? What would encourage you, or what would be a way for you to do that at home and build it into your current routine instead of adding more to your routine? So for example, there are pretty small little treadmills that are not the big, huge, ginormous things anymore, that you can actually tuck away. You can actually keep in the living room or in a bedroom where there's a TV and just lean it up against the wall. They're pretty small. And you can even just get it out and walk on it while you're watching TV at night. Look at what's preventing you from doing it already. And then you want to break it into micro steps and not just say, okay, I'm going to walk more, but you want to look at, okay, how much do I actually want to walk? Do I want to walk for an hour a week? Do I want to walk 10 minutes twice a week? Do I want to walk for 10 minutes 3 times a week? Give yourself a measurable goal and then look at your calendar and say, when can I add this into my schedule? When can I put it on my schedule in a way that actually is attainable? You don't want to put something on your schedule that you're not likely to do. For example, I know myself and I am not a morning person. I am slow to get up in the morning. I don't schedule clients at the crack of dawn because of this. I want to get up, get my coffee, take my time to let my body wake up. And I am not going to schedule exercise in the morning before my workday starts because I know myself well enough to know that I won't follow through with that because it's just not something I'm going to want to do. So even if it seems like a good idea on paper, I want you to check in with yourself and say, is this something that I'm going to want to do? And ditch any shame. If you've had anyone shaming you ever in your life for not being a morning person or not getting things done at a certain time of day, if that's just the way your body works and your brain works, that's okay. Nobody else gets to say to you how your body and brain is supposed to work. Check in with yourself to make sure that you're not putting a goal into your routine or on your schedule in a way that's going to be difficult to achieve because of the way your own brain and your body works. Work with your brain, work with your body instead of against it. Let's say you want to cook more. Maybe you look at, okay, why am I not cooking as much? Do I not have time to go to the grocery store? Do I not know recipes to cook? So you want to start with, okay, if I don't have time to go to the grocery store, what's a way for me to build that into my schedule? I know for me, I get grocery delivery, and it has been one of the most justifiable expenses I have ever made because I think it's $55 a year. I use Kroger, and then I get free delivery, and I can just go on their app and choose what I need. And as long as it's above $35, they bring it straight to my door. And then I'm not ending up ordering, Uber Eats or Grubhub or going out to eat at the last minute because I don't have groceries. Again, what's blocking you? Address that first. Let's say you don't really know how to cook. So maybe set aside 1 hour or 30 minutes a night to watch some YouTube videos on how to cook certain foods. And so learn first before you just start buying foods and trying to cook. Take some time to educate yourself. And just even watching a few videos will really make a big difference in you achieving your overall goal. Let's tackle one more. So let's say in your neurodiverse relationship, you want to connect more with your partner. So again, that's a big, broad goal, right? I want you to break it into smaller chunks and ask yourself, what would that look like? In what way would I know? How could you measure it? If you were to say to me, yes, Jodi, we're actually connecting more. And I'd say, how? Tell me how. I want you to show me how you're measuring that we're doing this more than we did before. I'm experiencing this more than I did before. So in what ways do you measure connection? Are you spending quality time together? And even then, what does quality time look like? For some people, quality time is actually doing an activity together, doing a task together, and talking and interacting, sharing about your life. For others, quality time is parallel. It's when you're in each other's presence, but maybe one of you is watching TV, one of you is reading, but you're still in the same room together. For some people, that's not enough. For some people, it is. So you want to break that down into what does it actually mean to me for our relationship to improve? For some people, it's more intimacy. But I will say this, again, you want to look at what's blocking it. Just having more sex is not the way to measure improving connection. Because if you're not already having as much sex as you want, there's a reason why. And I want you to look at what's blocking it, what's preventing it. Are you exhausted? Are you fatigued? Is there a lot of conflict in your relationship? If there's a lot of conflict, it's hard to really have a connected sex life. And so you want to look at, okay, what are the factors that are preventing us from being able to do this? If there's a lot of conflict, then how are you communicating with each other? In what way is communication being blocked? And I have a whole communication course to help you with that. So if you need help with communication, which most people in neurodiverse relationships do, head on over to my website, jodicarlton.com, and go to the courses tab, and you'll find that. So you want to look at what's blocking you from being able to achieve this goal, and then what you can do to address the blockages, but then also what you can do to implement new, small, achievable steps. So if you want to have dinner together once a week, a date night, if you will, look at what's achievable. Is date night achievable once a week, or is it more achievable once a month? Look at what needs to happen for you to have that date night. Do you need a babysitter? What are the things that you need to get that to happen? And then when you go on the date night, what will you be able to measure to say, okay, you know what? That was a connected date night. Are you talking with each other? Are you sharing about your career? Are you sharing about your day? Are you talking about the future together? What kinds of things can you say, we did this or we didn't do this? You want it to be measurable. And figuring out measurable goals is something that can be pretty hard, but to measure it, you can literally say whether or not it happened or it didn't. So that's a way for you to set a measurable goal for your relationship. Another thing you want to do as you set these goals is take small steps at first and not just try to jump in and attain the goal altogether. So if you want to lose weight or you want to read more, just start with a little bit. Start with just something that's very small and not, if let's say you want to lose weight, you want to lose 50 pounds, then you want to look for the first pound and then the first 5 pounds and then the first 10 pounds and then celebrate those milestones as you achieve them. If it's reading books, maybe read one book the first month, maybe read a few chapters the first month. Make it small and attainable. If it's your relationship quality, if you want to improve the quality of your relationship and there's a lot of conflict, first you need to work on reducing the conflict, because as long as there's a lot of conflict, I call it being in the boxing ring, your quality of your relationship, you can't really start growing that and improving that until you reduce the conflict. So any reduction in conflict is actually a step toward your goal, and you want to celebrate that. Celebrate that small step. Lastly, if there's any way to have an accountability buddy, maybe somebody else who wants to exercise more or walk more, or maybe if your partner wants to cook more, or maybe a friend wants to cook more, and you can hold each other accountable and share the recipes that you're learning or share the cooking tips that you've learned, just ideas about using a crock pot. Somebody who can check in with you and you can check in with them about your goals. If you want to read more, join a book club. Maybe you don't have time or even the social bandwidth to go to a book club, join one online. I think there are groups on Facebook and other places. You may not even end up interacting with those people, but maybe they have a book of the month that they're reading, and that just kind of takes away the decision process of you figuring out what you're going to read. That's actually what kind of got me jump started in reading. I joined a book club in my neighborhood, and they do meet in person, and I've yet to actually go. They meet on Friday nights, and by Friday evening, I'm exhausted from my work week, but I've read every book they've picked every month. And so that takes the decision-making process off of my mental load. And then there are apps that you can use for helping you meet lots of different kinds of goals, especially exercise apps, cooking apps, weight loss apps, reading. There are so many apps that you can use, time management apps, project-related apps. Use them. And also, if you get an app, though, and it's complicated and it's hard to figure out, ditch it. You want something that's simple, that basically gives you mental bandwidth back instead of taking it away. Okay, so in conclusion, resolutions are not about perfection. They're about progress, and they're about taking small steps to identify what's preventing you from meeting your goals, and then small steps toward achieving your goals. So I'd love to hear from all of you about what some of your resolutions are here in the comments, and happy New Year to all of you.